Washington clear, Southwest 8504.
Southwest 8504.
Bart, do you have our flight plan up, or do we need to have dispatch file for it?
Hello, welcome to TellARotor IC, an episode about helicopters run by three fools named Michael, Mike, and Robert Monty. This is episode 4, titled Flybarless Tuning. The crew tonight, myself, Mike DiPaolo, Robert Monty's here with me.
Hey.
And we have Mike Shaggy Parker as well.
I am not here.
Sure you are.
Maybe not.
Just go in that corner and contemplate your life a little bit and come back when you're done.
He'll sound the same in the corner.
Commit seppuku. I love you.
Starting off great.
Yeah, it's perfect. Just the way I like it. Right, so, heli news. What do we got?
Oh, we got a fair amount of heli news.
We got the good stuff tonight.
We're starting off with news. Okay, we're off the bat.
Yeah, man.
Well, what else would we go to?
What we did?
I spent the whole day talking about my coworkers' mothers. It's Valentine's Day. Remember to tell your mother and your significant other I love you.
Oh, man, that could have potentially gone down so many other roads. Who wants to go to that Vegas Fun Fly, man? I bet they're going to have a good time. Are they going to have a special activities bus like the Minnesota guys?
I mean, they haven't announced it. I don't know if you do announce that kind of thing.
No, man, it's like Fight Club.
Maybe they'll have a line vacuum cleaner.
Oh, God.
I want that vacuum cleaner. Gail, I want one.
Oh, no.
No.
Hey, you know what? Speaking of Align Corporation,
oh yeah,
the first item up is the Align 450 LP AC ARTF, the almost ready to fly. So looking around, find it at your favorite Align dealer or at Align T-Rex store. And I meant to write down the price, but I didn't. You know why? Because I'm awesome.
So here we go with the editing.
The price on it, as shown at the moment on the AlignTRexStore.com, is $470.89, a 15% discount from $553.99.
And what do you get with that?
You get the brand new Align A10 10-channel 2.4 transmitter.
Now, A10, is that a plane or is that a heli?
I was going to ask, does it come with a GAU 8?
No, I don't think it does, but it's shooting faster than a GAU 8 with its 2.4 frequency hopping.
That's true. I'll give it that.
Yep. Also, I see new on the heli is a new Flybarless controller called the Mini GRS.
Off to Google I go.
I say it's already set up for the 450. So no further tuning needed. Also, I was looking through the notes. The transmitter has a 20 model memory.
Wow.
And has helicopter, plane, and multi-rotor modes.
Now, I also heard something about that it's already pre-assembled and pre-flown, right?
Yeah, Gail was talking about that on...
Freefall, was it?
Was he on Freefall last? I should probably get this really straight.
That would be good.
He gets me hate mail for this from the other guys.
It's a TRX 450L, looks like.
Yeah, it is.
Yeah,
So it's not like it's a cheesy version or anything.
No, it's a good heli.
It looks like it's actually like the full version, just pre-assembled.
And 3S, I think. I think it's a 3S. I think it's a 3S.
It's 3S?
It's a 3S. It says it here. 460.
Cool.
460 MS, 3200 kV for 3S. So people, a little bit more tame, but honestly, even a 3S 450 can rock. The speed control it comes with is capable of 6S, though, so if you just swap your motor, you can really go full crazy.
Crazy.
No, it would have probably been the episode with Gail, episode 109 of the Freefall RC podcast, where he's talking about these things are pre-flown.
That's nice.
Very cool.
Yeah. No, that's sharp. That's cool. I remember we always used to laugh about how a certain manufacturer said all their stuff was pre-tested. The joke was, I think they hung it from the ceiling with a string because there was no way this hovered in the factory.
True. True.
But in this case, they prove it.
Oh, Lord. Yeah.
So, that's the Align. Look for it out there at your favorite dealer.
Well, there's another Align heli.
Yeah, I saw a brief picture of a post, the Align 600XN, the next generation of nitro helicopter from Align.
That's got to be one of the longest running models I've seen from them. They haven't really, like the 600N, like the base chassis of it, I don't think it's really changed besides them just adding a DFC head and some other things here and there to it for quite some time.
Yeah, I owned one a long time ago. Yeah, Mike and I, some of our beginning flights, we have on YouTuber with our 600 nitros.
Traded
DFC,
mine for
right?
my old. No, mine had like the old FL head on it.
Yes.
No,
same as mine.
Mine did.
Yeah, that's right. Because I updated mine from Flybarless to Flybar, or from Flybar to Flybarless, and I had a newer head than yours did.
Yeah, mine was extra crusty, but I beat on it anyway. It was a fun heli. I liked it.
It was like maybe an extra like 10, 15 millimeters taller than a 700 size helicopter.
Oh yeah. No, I can tell you right now, if I'd stuck it next to my N7, they'd be the same height.
Oh, no, here's the crazy thing. The one I have on my 600 Nitro, you put it next to my E7SCs, it's literally like an inch taller.
Yeah, I bet the 600 is taller than the N7 DePaulo.
With that ridiculous head. Yeah, it was pretty funny.
It still works.
It was still a Nitro, it was light.
You know the crazy thing about my Align 600 Nitro is, Mike, I think you still have my Curtis rotor blades, the stick fingers.
The ones I flew through hundreds of feet of corn and they lived, and then they just started falling apart. I lawnmower banned one too many times, I had to retire them. Yeah,
and I was the third owner of my 600 Nitro. It'd been owned by a few of the guys down in the Fluvanna Club, and then I sold that helicopter to the one and only Mr. Dan K. Reed.
Really?
Yeah, that's right. I remember that.
Yep. I did not know that. I did not know that's how he got his.
That's where it came from.
He mentioned a little bit, but I think he was digging his 700s more.
Yeah, he was talking about that more. I didn't know. Well, I did not know that. Learn something new every day.
Let's see, another heli. The XL Power Spectre 700. A couple videos of that starting to pop up now.
I saw that at I saw the 550 was the first one.
Yeah, it sure was.
Was it the 550 that was the first one?
Yep.
Yeah, I saw it at IRCHA was the first time I saw it. It looks like a really, really nice heli. I mean, just a new brand. It looks nice. So I can't imagine what the 700 is going to look like. It's going to,
Well, I mean, there's video. One video I spotted of it was Chris Nutt. He was flying it down in South Carolina, and then
that's right. I did see that.
Yep, and then a friend of ours from the competition side, Mike Goza, he won one in the main pilot drawing at IRCHA on Saturday night. He won the 550.
Nice.
Yeah.
Isn't it like a really light heli for its size?
I think they were showing that it was fairly lightweight. Sometimes I don't paying huge amounts of attention to all the details.
I've been hearing that, but I don't know if that's accurate or not. Like that, I'll have to do some research on that.
Yeah, I was looking at some of it, and I was like, it's good looking heli. It's a good looking heli. It'll be interesting to see. I look forward to seeing Chris bring his up to Spring Fling and get to check it out a little bit.
Yeah, look at it with a fine.
There's something else that's going to be at Spring Fling.
Yes.
Yeah, it is going to be one there. Actually, if a certain guy from the South shows up, there might be more than one.
Wait, is this what you've told me, not told me yet?
What? That the Synergy N556 is a thing I can talk about now?
Oh, no. Okay.
Yeah, that thing. Oh, there's more things later, but we don't get into those yet.
They won't even tell me?
Nah, man. It's Skunkworks, man.
Skunkworks.
It's Skunkworks. Matt don't even know. He's like, these guys just show up and hand me cool things. I just sell them.
I hate you guys.
Definitely, 556. The Nitro 556 just got announced yesterday. Matt put up on his thing that he's approaching 1,000 test flights on that helicopter.
Yeah, fun story.
That's insane.
We flew that at IRCHA last year, 2017, main line at dusk, straight up out there, whipping it around. And like one guy was like, "Oh, that's cool. Is it new?" Everyone else was just like, "It's a Nitro 600. That's cool." Yeah, I was
saw
shocked.
it, but I thought it was an N7, and I was like,
Exactly.
that's a little high pitch.
It
Why
looks
does it sound
just
so
like
high pitch?
one.
And then I was thinking like, I was far away, so I was like, well, maybe an M5C. It sounds like a 50, but it looks like a 7. I don't know. I didn't pay attention to it. I just saw it fly. That was it.
Yeah, one of the great things. I mean, I visited Matt's house last spring in 2017, and he's got a great amount of property there between his workshop and his house. He can go out and he's got a great amount of property to do big air testing or on the ground smack. So he can do a lot of testing in private. And on the announcement of the N556, approaching 1,000 test flights. He said tentative release this spring.
That's
he
a
says
maybe.
he says he'll have it at the Birmingham, Alabama Fun Fly this March, and then today he posted the picture up of the new front transmission design.
There's not much.
One piece aluminum. One piece aluminum still has what is a mod 1.5 gears in there.
Still huge gears.
And the slant gear.
The helical, yeah.
Yeah. The drive pinion's now a slant helical.
Yeah.
That's pretty cool.
It is cool.
Be quiet.
The other thing I was also really digging on it is the way he's got the bearings. The word attached isn't right. Installed in there, so it looks like it's going to be really solid and really serviceable. So I'm looking forward to that.
Coming from Monty, who has he's got all these wonderful nightmares still about the whiplash and having to use a bearing press for everything on the old version back in the day.
Yeah, the reason I went out and bought a arbor press is because of the miniature aircraft whiplash.
Yep.
Hey, that thing's a handy tool. I would be nowhere without that
all
thing.
The time, honestly.
It is very useful.
Considering how cheap they are.
Is very useful, but sometimes you buy tools because you go, that would be a great help, and sometimes you buy tools because you're like, there's no other way I can do this. I've done broken everything else. This is awful. I need to go to the store.
That works for both categories right there.
What do you have that can crush this?
A half turnover press will.
So last piece of news I have in here is we're posting over on the rchelihangout.com forum in the podcast corner. So we usually post up there about each episode, and we try and add some trivia in there. See if we can get some listeners to answer back and answer some of the trivia from that podcast or from that episode. Also, you'll also find there our friends from Freefall RC, the Full Pitch podcast, and the RC Heli Hooligans podcast. So, yeah, we're posted over there, having some fun. Definitely looking for listener feedback, and if you just want to yell at us in another way besides email, any other news items?
I still have a question about
my head.
I still have more questions about the 556.
I mean, I can answer what I can within reason.
Okay.
Throw them out there.
So the head, is that the same as maybe the N5C, E5, and 516? 516 is different, so...
516 parts.
Oh, it is? Okay.
One of the things folks will notice in the pictures of the 556, Nitro 556, is the tail blades.
Oh, yeah, this.
They are mounted the direction all of us pilots expect, and that tail is rotating counterclockwise, as most of us would expect. So, for those who are familiar with Synergy, hey, this is a good thing.
Yeah.
This is a good thing.
Just the N7 you got to be weird with.
Okay.
Or does the N5C do that?
N5C does that.
N5C is backwards as well.
It is. Okay.
Yep.
So that's cool. I didn't notice that now until you said something. Good.
Yep.
That's going to save a lot of tail blades.
Yeah, we've had a couple people get surprised by that.
Yeah, you see it pop up on the forums,
but RTFM.
Yeah, every one of them is like, oh, dang it,
Dang it. Yeah, when it happens, I just point out the page of the manual, and they're like, "Oh crap!" Like,
Yeah.
I looked at the manual and I see that, like, I have it downloaded on here and I see it.
True though.
All I know is I'm really preferential to 600 class nitros. Great gas mileage, great training, great flying. So
And
I'm
they're
looking forward to
fast.
this. Yeah, they are. I love flying 700 class nitros.
It's got the float.
It's got the float and they got the power. The power to weight ratio is always just insane with them.
But it's just the 600 and 550 sizes, because they're smaller. You can still fit a lot of juice in them. Man, the cyclic rates, they're just quick.
Yeah,
And they're still
quick.
big helis, though.
And they're still big helis, and
Yes.
for me, it's more flight per gallon. It's more fun per gallon.
Oh, yeah.
Just pure out time. Usually, we were always averaging 12 flights a gallon.
Oh, it's freaking awesome.
All these big block nitro, 105s and 120s and 96s and 91s. It's like six flights, 7 maybe.
And you're looking at $25 to $30 a gallon. I mean, it's a lot of money per flight.
25 if you're buying a pallet.
It's not
Yeah,
really so
exactly.
much about the cost as it's just straight up like the fun per gallon. DePaulo and I were flying together, flying helis before. He remembers it. And,
This was fun.
I plumbed up the helicopter so that I could leave the engine running, plug in my fuel, and refuel it with the engine running.
Oh, we did it for like an hour.
I was flying for 45 minutes with
Yeah, it
hot
was stupid.
fueling. I had
Wow.
a blade holder out in the field, and I was doing 45 minutes of autos and 3D, and fueling it up, and it was
Every time
an
we filled it
absolute
up, we
riot.
laughed.
It was an absolute riot. The crazy thing is at that time I was running a 2200 milliamp 2S back.
We used it. All of it.
Used it. The heli got low enough on power. It started pirouetting about 10 feet off the ground. It
He
hit
did a-
throttle hold.
He did a punch out, and the tail was like, "Bleh." And we're like, "Whoa, what is that?"
Battery's dead. You need one of
Yeah.
these generators.
Well, I walked over and I looked at it. I'm like, "Robert, nothing's wrong with this helicopter." And then I saw the tail servo moving stupid slow, and I'm like, either you fried a servo or we just actually killed a battery in one sitting.
We killed the battery in one sitting, and that was just a lot of fun.
You need a heli alternator.
I've never laughed at filling a helicopter up, but that was just stupidly funny for some reason.
We talked about mounting the gallon to the helicopter and mounting skids to the gallon and just flying the gallon.
Just to say I did that.
Yes.
Yeah.
You know what?
I got an idea now.
You want to see how long we can fly a 556?
Yes. Yes.
That's gonna be like, I'm not sending you that heli now.
No. See, here's the thing. These helicopters are capable of lifting like 10 times their own weight. We could strap a whole freaking case to this thing. Come on now.
Oh,
Leave
God.
it in the box. The box
that
will be the
engine-
skids.
That engine will be dead.
Who cares, man? It'd be fun.
10
build it-
times the weight of an 8-pound helicopter would be 80 pounds.
Yeah.
It can pull. It won't pull well, but it can pull.
We've seen the
Heli Graphics did it.
heli graphics.
Yes,
We've seen him
yes.
use 2 Gowie 700s to lift a woman,
130-pound woman.
and then we've seen them use a single helicopter to pull a Ferrari in nitro, or
That happened.
in neutral in nitro.
See, you
In
want that heli.
neutral, but there's something different to be said about picking up a Ferrari and pulling a Ferrari.
Well, yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, a single person can pull a Boeing 747. I mean, that's hard, a lot of work, but I
the
mean, it's
rolling
possible.
resistance is long enough.
Yes.
Yeah. So
And once you overcome that inertia, a regular person can push a rail car down the straight.
yeah.
It's just that inertia is tough.
Okay, we got to move this thing along tonight.
Last thing, though. Oh. No, yeah, I'm good. And 556, I want it, but I don't need it. But I really want it, but I don't need it.
Well, hey, we'll play the game once I'm feeling comfortable. I think maybe like 20 or 30 flights, and I'll be like, all right, who wants to fly this?
I want to fly it so badly. I really do. I actually am wanting this thing more and more now, but I don't need another helicopter.
I mean,
Dude, switching airframes is cheap, and you already have the stuff.
I was gonna say you're just buying an airframe.
You're buying
you've
an
got the cheap
airframe.
version.
I
don't
don't
have
want
to
to
buy
take anything
anything.
out of my 600 Nitro.
Dude, hang that frame up and give it a proper retirement and get a
No.
new heli.
Hey,
Give it a
fun
give it
story.
a,
That thing
give
will
it
not get a proper
retirement.
retirement until it smashes into the ground.
Hey, how about this? I'm gonna wheel a dumpster out there, and you're gonna tail slide that thing from 300 feet up on YouTube Live. That's a burial. You're gonna do it. I'm gonna shut the lid and be like, "Done. Buy a new one."
No.
Come on.
Oh, that would be. What do we got? What do we got? You know, a couple years ago, it was the what was that silly dance? It would sit there and play that music, and one guy would just sit there and like bob his head or something, and then it would switch, and everyone's dancing around like maniacs. Remember that?
Nope.
The Harlem Shake.
Yes, the Harlem Shake. Well, this summer will be the summer of we got to get all the heli pilots around the world to just tail slide their heli right into a dumpster.
Hey, you know, someone already did that. Ed was talking about it on Hooligans, not the one with Kyle Dahl on it. Yeah, you got to listen to it. One of the guys at his club was flying and lost it behind a hill or something like that because
Yeah.
Right into a dumpster.
He flew a small heli into a completely empty dumpster, but
Yes.
he couldn't even. If he tried,
Hold
there would
on
be
now.
no way he could repeat it.
Hold on. It's got to be deliberate. It has to be a very obvious. I went up 300 feet, went knife edge, and drove that thing into the ground like a fence post.
Yep,
Done.
dumpster.
Gotta do it.
Yeah, it's
Dumpster
funny
dive.
It's funny the feedback I'm getting on the Urcha interview. You know, one of the guys is like, "Urcha's all right with crashing in chaos."
They're heli pilots. There you go. That's basically all you got to say.
They're heli pilots. They just don't want to be. They don't want to see anyone get hurt.
No one wants to get hurt, and the insurance overlords are omnipresent. You don't want to make them angry.
Yeah, it's the reason the speed guys wear helmets.
Yep.
Yep.
Like, Urcha brought out light towers, because like, well, the AMA says we can do this, and we like night flying. So, we got light towers.
Yeah.
And honestly, the funny thing was
I
that
liked
a couple of them were surprised at how well organized we can keep ourselves. And oh, Shaggy,
What?
you should totally get a Nitro 700,
No.
because I might sell one.
DePaulo.
What?
DePaulo. I
What?
figured out a way. If you're gonna let me use that airframe, I figured out a way I could actually get it in the air.
Oh, you got it at 105, don't you?
No, I actually have a 91.
Well, that'll work.
I got a 91.
Wait, the N7 or the special project?
Oh, wait, you're talking about that really old 91?
Yes, and he's
Like-
broken in.
Yeah, that's right. We did rebuild that motor.
Yeah,
Well,
And-
it'll fly.
I hate you
And-
guys. Come on, tell me what you're talking about.
and I forgot that I might be able to get a hold of servos. So because you're pulling the servos.
No, I'm not. I'm gonna go get some MKS goodies for it.
Oh. Well, all that to say that I think either. Oh, dude, I looked last night. Tower had 55 HCRs in stock, and a friend was telling me
What?
today Tower's out of stock already. I gotta go double check.
Oh, what? They got them in and just like that, gone?
No, when I looked yesterday, they were in stock. 55 HZR or 55 HZ was in stock yesterday.
Oh, mid-May.
And now the
Oh, wow.
HZR is out of stock.
Till May.
One announcement from Matt, and that thing is out of stock.
Yeah. Between
Wow.
Matt and the Align one, everyone's like, oh, engines! Just gone. They probably had like 30 of them on the shelf. Gone.
Gone.
I wonder if RC Japan even has any.
I hope so. I want to get another one. Just
Hey,
as a
I'm the
backup.
guy. I'm the guy that's got 2 of them all modified, ready to go. And like, eh.
Modified.
I
Ooh.
might
you gonna
get
share some of that goodness?
I might get servos and ask to borrow one of those engines, Mike.
Uh-oh.
If I can't get an engine
For what? This is for the N7, though.
for 55, I
Oh.
am seriously thinking about building a 556. Because guess what I
Well,
ordered last night?
Yes.
What did you order last night?
Did you order?
A starter wand.
Yes.
Oh.
Monta's
this
going
guy.
Nitro O. Yes.
He's like, they're only going to steal Mike's N7 for some time, or he's going to build a 556.
Well, I also have the
Yes.
Thunder Tiger. I the Raptor 90 SE.
Oh, yeah. That thing.
Yeah, I pulled the electronics this week, and I sent everything off that needed service to Futaba. So either I'm getting that Raptor in the air, I'm getting an N7 in the air, or maybe a model becomes available this spring and I put a 5.56 in the air. But
well, don't worry. If all goes to plan, you'll get to play with that 5.56 a little sooner.
Yeah,
we're gonna be those.
I want to put Futaba stuff in it. I want to own it. I want to hang it from my ceiling.
Well, here's the other thing too. And Cherry and I were going back on testing protocols for this guy, because when we get these things and we're going to start railing on them ourselves, all right, this thing's actually really lightweight. So I was initially thinking of using like 575 HBL, pretty overkill servos from MKS.
Yeah.
And we were thinking like maybe I should just go grab a set of the like the 1240s, like the mid-range, not super strong, not super, but still fast servos, and they're like 85, 89 retail. And test on that, and honestly, look at the specs. It should be overkill even then, just because how light the heli is.
If I jump on the ball and I get that heli, the servos I would put in there, or obviously expert, would be the 4401 Cyclics and a 2202T for the tail. The 4401s is what I have in my E7 SE. They are about $100 a piece, and the 2202T is like 80, and it's like over 250 ounces of torque per square inch.
Yeah, it's like, what is it? The HV 1240 on a light boat, right? You're looking at like 170 ounce inches and 0.084 for a 60-degree sweep. So that's pretty well. Like, it's a smaller light heli. You're not going to have to spend a ton of money to make it.
No. I mean.
So that might appeal to a lot of people.
Yeah. Agree.
I mean, you could put a $200 X6 servo in there, like 3 of them, and then a crazy expensive. But
oh hell yeah, you could put the KD1s in that thing, which are $180 a piece.
Someone's gonna put like X8s in this thing. Someone's gonna do it. Probably more than a few someones are gonna do it. We already had that discussion. I was busy motorboating with a tractor. There wasn't much flying to be had in Delmarva.
I am working with Urcha on improving something for the Jamboree.
Yay!
Oh, yeah, there's that.
Yep.
And I made some things for Tim Jones, and there's that, I guess.
And
that's about it.
I flew on the February 1st, and that's the only time I've flown, and I got new expert micro servos. So excited. I haven't flown the helicopter yet. It's killing me. And also I used the Soko 2 on it to level it, and on the E7. And about to start the 500.
Soko's a pretty bomb.
Yes. So the 420 is ready to fly again. E7's finally ready to fly. Finally. And then the 500 finally will actually fly. Like, I've got a very rare picture on my computer. It's actually on my desktop right now, like the background. It's a very rare picture of the Goblin 500 USA in the air.
Wait, you've had that thing that long?
I've had that thing for almost 2 years.
And it hasn't flown yet.
It has flown. I got a very rare picture of it in the air. I've flown like 7 flights, and they're all tuning on a different unit that, I don't have anymore.
This guy. You better be flying it, otherwise Monty and I reserve the right to harass you endlessly about it.
Which heli? Exactly.
The 500 Sport USA.
So I guess speaking of units on aircraft.
Yes. yes, finally.
Oh, wait. Hold on. Wait, don't take that out of context. Monty, don't. I gotta, preface that, because I know. I've spent too much time in a car with this man.
Well, that and it's Valentine's Day, and there's a bunch of men around the United States and possibly the world who are just thinking about their units.
Oh, my gosh.
Honestly,
come on,
we're
Rob.
recording
Really?
this at, 10:25. If you haven't extolled your advantage, well, it's your own damn problem.
Suckers!
It's freaking Valentine's Day. If you're sitting here... Wait,
Damn it!
Shit, we're recording a podcast.
Damn it!
Damn it.
We could be at the movies. It could be at a fancy restaurant. No, we're recording a podcast and talking about toy helis.
Okay, so the main topic.
Yes.
Main topic of this episode is optimizing your Flybarless controller.
Or how not to make a helicopter crash. One of many.
You know, one of the things we notice a lot when we're talking to folks is there's been a lot of discussions on PID and what that all means. There's been a lot of discussion on that, but there's not a lot of discussion about where the rubber meets the road. How does that actually impact the heli? You know, how would one go about tuning their Flybarless controller beyond the stock setup, depending upon their skill level? And you know, where would they go? I think another big thing I wanted to mention, you know, right up front is your skills will directly determine just how much tuning you do, and as your skills increase, you will need to revisit. You know, the tuning could be revisit tuning on your tail, or you'll need to visit for the first time tuning of your rotor head. The other thing is just because you know, if you can't fly the maneuver, then the helicopter is tuned as best as your skill will allow it, and there's nothing wrong with that. I fell into a trap, and DePaulo probably remembers me seeing it. I spent probably about 2 years trying to get, you know, the best tune ever on a Flybarless controller. But if you can't fly the maneuver, then you can't really tune it. Then you're wasting your time. So, you know, if you're just starting out hovering, then yeah, the tuning your tail is only going to be, you know, optimal for hovering. As soon as you start forward flight, you may find you're going to have to visit the tuning your tail.
Hooray.
Because you may find it starts wagging. Yeah,
That don't work no more.
And that's fine. Just like. You know, after you get through forward flight, you may start doing, you might start playing around with TikToks, and you may find that the helicopter oscillates, wobbles on stops. Well, your skill's gotten better. Welcome to the wonderful world of you've gotten better. Time to tune your heli now that you're better. With that, anyone want to add to the introduction?
I guess really you can know all you can about PID, but it won't help if you know how to apply it. There's that catch.
First up, I wanted to go over some basic installation items with your Flybarless controller. One item I know I've actually made videos of it on YouTube is making sure that your sensor is square in the aircraft.
This is important. It's kind of really important.
Just a little bit.
Really important.
Just a little bit.
If your controller is not square and the controller is doing feed forward in the helicopter for you, it starts, you know, if you're doing like a fast aileron roll and fast forward flight, if your controller is not square, it's going to start sensing elevator, and it may feed forward, you know, elevator, and the helicopter doesn't roll very nicely. So it's important that you make sure that sensor is square. That's something you can do at the bench at home, you know, right there without even flying it to make sure of it. What were some items, Shaggy, that you could use to help square it up?
There's many things you can actually use, and the best thing, probably the easiest thing, really, and everybody's got them, is just a simple, you know, Lego block. Just simple as that. Like two peg over, maybe 4 peg long, depending on the size that you're placing it at. Just a simple Lego block would work.
Just anything square, honestly.
Anything perfectly
hard
90.
and square.
Yes.
Yep, hard and square.
I mean, you can use pieces of like balsa wood if you're a playing guy like me, but a lot of those, especially if you have to cut the piece, you may not cut it perfectly
like
straight.
A domino or something like that.
Jenga piece.
Oh. Yeah, Jenga piece.
Yeah. Yeah, definitely find something square, and you want to square it up against your side frames because you're looking to be square in relation to your main shaft, not necessarily the platform it's sitting on.
No, it could be anywhere.
Yeah, because you don't want to square up against the carbon fiber weave. Carbon fiber weave may not be perfectly square.
Not at all.
So,
and you can actually see that if you look at some of these hand molded blades. You can see the weave is literally all over.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, it's not in line with what you'd expect.
There's also different types of gyros. So this was a perfect example for like all-in-one gyros. You also have separate sensor gyros, and you want to make sure that separate sensor, that's the one you center. Whether you have it on the bottom of a plate, like some helicopters have a bottom plate, or if you put it on top or whatever, make sure that little module is centered. It doesn't matter about the main unit. that right there, you can put sideways, you put vertical, twist it, whatever you want. I mean, obviously you want to try to make it centered as possible, but it doesn't have to be. That's the main control board there. The sensor is what you really want perfectly centered.
Yeah, agree.
I mean, some people put that module like sideways on the side frame, but they have the center perfectly lined up.
Yeah, I'm one of the guys who actually flies a controller that has the sensor separate of the control box, and the control box is on top of my boom within viewing distance, and I can poke at it as needed. My actual sensor is it's visible from the bottom of the helicopter on the gyro tray. You know, I've built helicopters from Align and Thunder Tiger and Goblin and Synergy. Most everyone has recommendations in the manual of locations for the sensor because they're thinking of that for us. So they have general recommendations where to put it.
Yes. I've seen a lot of manuals where it has recommendations for it.
Yep, and usually it has to go into the designer's mind. They have to give a place for the components, the electrical components. But yeah, do keep in mind you shouldn't be you shouldn't be attaching your electronics to high vibration items, as you may find you found a way of failing the item.
It's bad juju. Don't do it.
Oh yes, and also if you have a gyro mount or a location you want to put it, and it's next to a side frame, don't push it against the side frame, as the side frames can also lead to excess vibration onto the unit. Make sure it is in the open.
Yep, in the open. I think that's the good part. In the open. Yep. I think another basic thing here, and you'll see it when you use items like the SOCO tool, is the CG of the aircraft. You want to make sure the CG of your aircraft is proper before you go through a lot of these tuning items, as you will find if you're playing with items that have to do with elevator pre-compensation. If your aircraft isn't CG'd, you're going to overcompensate for something wrong mechanically that is well within your control. Another item are vibrations. Whether we're talking about vibration isolation of the wires or the mount, and just vibration of the aircraft. I know when I'm building an aircraft, a lot of times I will, when I'm building it, or if I have questions, I'll strip the rotor blades off and I'll set it down on a table, usually isolated with towels or shop rags, and I'll spool it up. And I want to see if the heli's trying to walk around, if servos drift, even though I'm giving no input. I'm looking for vibrations. I may put my hands across the boom, the side frame, or depending upon your gyro model, you can, if you've recorded a previous baseline before, you can compare it against a previous baseline, see if the vibration baseline has changed, and pinpoint from there. That's definitely something to do as far as vibrations. Securing wires. You look through a lot of the manuals and you'll see some of them give measurements of how far away the zip tie should be in securing the servo wires that go into it. How you secure it, whether it's zip ties. These days I actually use dental floss.
Dental floss, yes.
I use dental floss.
It's a little bit. It takes a little longer to apply, but in the long run, it saves
your slice your wires. You can get it through all sorts of stuff. And if you're doing multi bundles, lacing tape will not try to squish everything into an ellipse.
Yes, yeah, that's the big one. Is not cutting the wires. Something that deals with vibration natively. And it's cheap, it's plentiful. So lacing tape is definitely the I wouldn't say the exotic, but the more expensive version, and what you'd see if you're using something like at a NASA scenario. For us modelers, dental floss, waxed. I've used zip ties before. I know looking through nitro models, I've seen plenty of people wrap Velcro around it and then zip tie it. But yeah, make sure you get your wires properly secured so that they're not putting vibration into the controller, or they're going to gain. They're going to they're going to have a mass of their own where your maneuvers are going to pull the wires out over time.
Yes. Make sure also your wires aren't pulling on the unit, where you could either cause the unit to start twisting on the servo tape or the gyro tape you have on there, so it's pulling it off off center, or it's tugging and that wire is vibrating and it's tugging on the unit, causing excess vibration.
Definitely.
Don't lay your wires over top of the unit, because vibrations of those wires flopping around from maneuvers will cause excess vibration to go into the unit.
Definitely. One of the last items here is actually securing the servo connections into the controller. I know we were talking about it earlier. I used Shugu once upon a time, and there's mentions of it. But my experience with Shugu is it can be a bit caustic to the plastic.
Yeah, there's that.
If you really want to know more about that, go listen to RCHN. They have a good old time with that.
These days, I like to practice my old welding skills and lay a bead of hot glue down on the connectors right as they go into the controller. Or I've definitely seen a lot of people do it, a 3M double stick to the connectors.
I've done both. Now, one question with the hot glue though, what do you use? Do you use high temp or low temp?
I haven't practiced with. So I use low temp.
Yes,
I've never used high temp.
I have used high temp, and though it does work, it creates a hell of a mess. But you got to make sure you apply the low temp properly, or it's just going to vibrate off. It's just going to fall off. You got to make sure you actually put a nice smooth bead on there, pretty large. Make sure you're actually getting over the top of the Flybarless unit. And if it's the one that have the pins that go straight, that you push straight down, so the vertical pins, make sure it kind of seeps over the edges of the casing.
Yeah.
That way it has something to grip onto.
I know for a lot of because DePaulo, I don't think you actually secure either way, do you?
What?
How do you secure your wires into your icons?
Hot glue.
Hot glue. Okay.
Yeah, because I can and almost have thrown wires out of my Flybarless unit if you fly hard enough.
I have.
Yeah. I haven't, but then again, I'm not flying as hard as either of you guys.
Yeah, the helis, the RC stuff, the jet, definitely. Yeah, they all got hot glue.
Yeah. No, I know
Nazi.
a lot of times I will you'll see it on maidens. I still don't have hot glue down. I'm still a little open as to I might do a maiden and land the helicopter, decide to completely tear it apart. So usually you'll see me apply hot glue after
You're happy with it?
two or 5 flights. Because I actually usually have a hot glue gun with me at the field.
I try to bring one as well.
Yeah. So the next item, a lot of times when I start out with a helicopter, I've done the bench setup on it. I've put in, general gain values, and selected general sizes for the helicopter. Is the feed forward items. A lot of these controllers have feed forward turned on by default, so they'll do torque pre-compensation for tail or governor. And those things, off the bat, if you're just going to fly default settings, they're great. You don't have to do it. But if you're going to get more in depth on your tuning, I would say right off the bat, turn them off. And you're turning them off just to tune. You can turn them back on, realize you've turned them off. But sometimes you may go to tune these following items we're going to talk about, and your pre-comps are would be a good word. They're not helping. They're actually hurting what you're seeing. If you're trying to tune tail gain and you see your tail jump, it may not actually be latent gain. It may actually be the pre-comp. It saw you did, a large collective movement and it did the pre-comp. So, right off the bat, if you're going to go more in depth beyond, basic setups, a good time to turn off the feed forward and your governor and your tail. That's usually where I see them at. And where you can check a box or lower a slider. Or, check a box, lower a slider, or set it down to 0.
Yeah, that's something you can always go back into once you're finished programming the unit to be able to adjust feed forward and stuff like that.
Definitely, yeah. One of the last things we'll get back onto the feed forward items. One of the things I'll say is the first time we're talking about here is tail tuning and things you can do to tune your tail. These maneuvers are basically in an order that your skill would progress. So, we all started out hovering. Our helicopters, and it was a battle to do it. And at some point, you actually get control of it, and you have good solid hovers, and you start to wonder about that wag in your tail, or it may not feel. You get to that point where you're like, I think I can make this perform better. So one of the first things to talk about is the gain on your tail. Usually, when it comes to a maiden, I'll check the manual. Check the manual for the Flybarless controller for your size helicopter. Choose that gain. When you go out and do your first hovering, if you got it set up high enough that the tail wags like violently, it's probably pretty obvious you need to turn down your gain till it stops wagging. But from there, when you go from hovering, the next maneuver I usually take one into is fast forward flight. And again, this is one of those things you'll see as you progress to your flying. You may find you go from hovering to fast forward, and your tail starts wagging again. And all of this is going to say, I say all this to remember you may need to check your mechanical items, because there can be mechanical things. I've seen it before. People didn't size ball links, or it's the middle of winter and the ball links are really tight compared to the summertime when you built the heli. So, I say all this expecting you're doing proper items for the physical mechanical things of your helicopter, but you go from hovering to fast forward flight, and you may find you go in fast forward flight, you get a little bit of a wag. Well, it's time to turn your tail gain down a little bit. Usually when I get into these type of things, I'll turn it down, 3 points and check it. With fast forward flight, after that, next maneuver to go into to tune it is fast backwards flight. Putting some more pressure on that tail. I'll listen for it to wag. And when I say fast, you need to be flying fast as you're comfortable with. And also, I'm usually looking to dig into the collective a little bit. Put some pressure on the helicopter's mechanics to see if mechanics and electronics to see if it's doing its job, and whether or not it's trouble doing its job, or the harder you press into it, it all of a sudden it shows up. Oh, there's the wag. So yeah, fast backwards flight.
But also definitely go don't push it too hard. Go as fast as what you feel comfortable for, like you were saying, that because there's no point of just going like fast McGee trying to go supersonic with it if you can't control the helicopter like that, because there's no point of tuning it to that speed and you're nowhere near going to be flying like that. That's not your flying style.
Agree. Yeah, agree. I know a few of us, and I've witnessed it on the field, is to take a guy who may have a sport flying smooth and gentle style, and he'll say, hey, trusted member at my field, please tune my tail. And that trusted person is a 3D smack monster. And he goes out there and starts doing some maneuvers, and the tail is wagging, and he'll land it and he'll do adjustments. And you may find you take that helicopter back and you're like, I don't like the way my tail performs now. Just because it was good for him and he, emulates the best pilots in the world doesn't necessarily mean it was good for you. And your tune is your tune. So, and that's perfectly acceptable, and I expect that when other people expect me to help, when other people ask to help, they want to visualize what they're flying, what they're doing, and I'm not looking to go out there and be a smack monster with their helicopter and go, well, this thing isn't tuned well.
Yeah, I've experienced that quite a lot with for example, my Golden Fireball. I fly big air and 5,000 RPM. So when I try to do a low 3,300 RPM. And try to do the same, very similar maneuvers, obviously managing my collective, it sucks. Like the tail blows out and everything because it's not tuned for that. It isn't. I haven't taken time to tune it for that. I'm tuning it for big air and crazy head speed. And that's what it's tuned for. It's not tuned for half the head speed and with the same rates. It's not going to fly. It's completely different. That's literally a perfect example of what you just said, Rob. Fast McGee, he's smacking around, and then you got, your average Joe here that's still learning. You can see what he's going to try to fly. Now his tail's blowing out every time he gives a slight collective or he tries to correct it. Now his tail's blowing out 180 degrees.
Definitely. Back to the list. So we finished up fast backwards flight, and you may have adjusted your gain a little bit down because you found your wagging. The next one is fast sideways flight, and specifically we're talking about right to left for our tails that are set up on the right side of the helicopter. We're talking about fast right to left flight, and the reason is this is the direction where the system is going to be more troubled it's putting more pressure on it. You're dealing with the torque of the motor and the fact that the helicopter wants to blow the tail out the same direction. So this fast sideways right to left flight will start showing that your gain is in fact high enough. And you want to do this maneuver at a proper altitude because if the tail does let go, it'll usually go 90 degrees and it'll take you from sideways flight into forward flight. You do it high enough and okay, you're in forward flight. Take back control of your helicopter and adjust it as needed. So fast sideways right to left flight. Usually I'll take a helicopter, put it tail in, I'll take it off to my right side, do a stall turn, except I won't do any rudder work, bring it out of the stall and start feeding it collective and bring it across the field fast, loading that thing up. And you'll hear the tail load up. You'll hear it load up. Understand you're pressing the system into doing work for you, and you want to see if it's going to hold. Make sure to do it at a safe altitude. Next one up there is the same as again fast sideways right to left. Add in a sideways loop. So as you're flying from your right side to your left side, do right aileron and do a loop with the helicopter, keeping it tail in. Again, do this high. This will put a lot of stress on that tail as you go through the orientation change, as it comes out of it and it gains speed. Especially if you do a very tight loop, pulling the collective. Pulling the collective to do a really tight loop. This will put pressure on the system, and again, it'll go to fast forward flight. Again, this checks to make sure you have enough gain on the system, or if it's wagging the whole way across the field. This is a maneuver, and I think DePaulo will help us here in a moment where we start talking about PI and D. What some of these maneuvers will help you see these kind of things. The next item is forward hurricanes. Hurricanes go silly fast. So this is one of those times you can load up the system again. Pretty much one of those ultimate ones that'll show you. You start going to hurricanes. So forward hurricanes and then backwards hurricanes.
You really want to murder your tail?
Yep, there you go.
I've done it. Rip Robert's tail gears. Good thing our club president wasn't there to yell at me for landing where I did.
Well, yeah. Again, it was a golden hour as him and I at the field, and there was a known thing about the first batch of Thunder Tiger E700 gears.
Oh gosh.
Yeah, and Mike found it for me.
I did.
Well, and that goes back to the difference in Mike and I's flying style. I actually had many fun and successful flights of that helicopter doing, precision style and freestyle.
Yeah, I'm that guy who has it for 30 seconds and blows the tail gears up.
Yep. He pressed it, and it didn't actually wag. It just went pop.
It just went pop. It was like, whoa, neutral pitch, hit throttle hold, let it down.
Yep. So, yeah, backwards hurricanes are definitely a maneuver that are going to show it up. I know another one that I've played with is funnels, tail down funnels going real fast.
Oh, yeah.
The tail will show up, and so that's one of those things. If you start hearing your tail wagging and you're changing your flight style, you'll see some guys, I'll watch them and it'll be the first time their tail's ever wagged, and you talk to them afterwards and they'll be like, "That's the hardest I've ever flown." They get so much adrenaline in their body that they're happy and jumpy. And they may not actually need to tune the tail that much. Maybe a point or two. If it does it every flight, yeah, dude. Apparently your skills got to the point it's time to revisit your setup a little bit. You gotten better. Next level. Welcome. Time to tune.
I've been cool with
I've been there.
I mean, usually, especially if you start hitting a wild DA change, you might find if you do a real overspeed, you might get a little bit of a wag. And you just land real quick, you adjust it out 5 points, and you go back to your business for the rest of the fun fly.
Definitely. I know as we get into topics later and later, or episodes later and later, you'll hear us mention DA a lot because density altitude affects a lot of how these aircrafts run. I know sometimes I'll do this tuning at nighttime, and I'll be really open. Your nighttime is when some of your lowest DA. And that means if you tune your tail for nighttime air, daytime air, you may never hear a problem out of it, but in daytime air, you may be able to get away with a little more gain than you do at nighttime. Or it was tuned in the daytime, and when you go to nighttime, this heli's never wagged. It's never complained. It's never whined. Guess what? That DA is going to show a little bit of whine. Before I hit this last item, instead of tail tuning, Mike, what do you got for us for PI and D on the tail, especially again to like tail stops, and just drift in the tail as you're flying through some of these maneuvers?
Oh lordy, that's a rabbit hole. Let's see. I guess we'll narrow that down to what are you looking for?
So I know a lot of times as I go through these maneuvers. Fast forward and fast backwards flight never usually shows it, but fast sideways flight does.
Oh.
As you had the helicopter squared up as you flew across the field, but you notice as you're flying across the field, that tail isn't staying square to you in that fast right to left.
Right. So I guess as far I kind of assume like a basic idea what PID is in our audience, or if not, you can just look it up real easy. But as far as PID to tail tuning. P would be your instant response game. I'm going to like brevity the hell out of this, but so it's basically if your controller's sitting there looping along, it sees an immediate change like right now, and that would be P gain. It's proportional to the immediate change. And so like if you do a punch out and the tail blows out wildly, that's the gain everyone's used to seeing. It's the one you turn up in your radio almost usually, or it's the main gain usually. And that's the one you'll crank it up until it oscillates or whatever, and you back it down 30% or so, and you're good.
Yep.
So you're like, okay, cool. I just flew sideways, and my tail totally just blew sideways slowly, like a gradual increase in error.
Well, and what I usually see, Mike, is the tail was square, like 0 degrees. It was square with me. It was pointed at me, and then it drifts 30 degrees, and it holds 30 degrees. It didn't blow out, but it just holds 30 degrees. It wasn't square. It came out. Right.
So what you're looking at now is the over time error, little errors that over time have been building up, and that's what integral deals with. Integral being a math term for a summation. So what you're dealing with here is the controller has a gain that determines how hard it reacts to a buildup of error. So if you're doing that sideways flying and your last command was keep the tail pointed straight at me, like 90 degree to the flight line, and the tail is not doing that after P gain did its thing, well, the controller looks at that and sees, okay, there's a difference here, so that's my error, subtraction, and then it'll scale that by a couple things usually depending on the algorithm, but the big one will be the integral gain, right? And then it'll add that to a stack of error. And it'll come around the next time, and if it sees the same thing, it adds more to that stack. And the idea behind this is if that stack gets big enough, multiplied by the gain, you've got an effect now. You start seeing that pop up in your tail control. So if it's set right, what will happen is that tail will start to slowly step out. That error will start building up. And then if your gain is set right and the controller is designed right, that integral over time error will add up and it'll correct itself. You'll see a correction and the tail will, maybe it drifts a degree or 2 at the most, but that error will build up then and it'll bring it back to center. So if you go flying sideways and you find that, oh, well, okay, the tail holds great in punch outs, or if I bang the stick, the tail immediately moves and it's good. But then if I fly sideways, or if I start doing pirouetting stuff while moving, you start seeing the tail whipping, where it takes forever to come around against the wind and then whips around when it's with the wind. You're dealing with an eye gain error, an error over time, so you'd want to start bumping eye gain up to fix that.
I know one of the great things in here is around episode 100 of the RC Heli Nation podcast. They gave some great explanations, and one thing I remember is talking about like the cruise control in our cars. The eye gain is once you slow down below that set speed of like 55, the eye gain is how hard does the car punch the throttle to get back to 55.
Yeah, how hard does it react to that slowness that it's sitting on?
Yep.
Or heading hold, really, that's what heading hold is you now have added integral. An error, yeah, it's an error over time thing. It's like how hard do you deal with this constant load, basically? Right, P gain handles with that instantaneous load, like bang, I just did a tail maneuver, whereas I gain handles constant loading, like you're flying sideways or you're doing a pirouetting flip or pirouetting loop.
Yep.
You're constantly loading the tail, and you've got to deal with that. Because it's because of the drawback with P gain, because if you have the P gain so freaking high that it perfectly reacts to every little instantaneous error, the thing is going to spaz out incredibly. So you bring in other terms. It's funny where PID originally came from. I forgot the engineer's name, but the dude was basically sitting on the deck of a boat watching the yeoman driving the boat along and watching how the guy was reacting to changes in how the boat was reacting and then how he did the inputs for it. Watching how he turned the wheel a little bit and the boat still wasn't doing what he wanted, so he'd keep turning it more, adding more reaction to the error he was seeing.
Yeah.
And that's what, in essence, eye gain especially is doing in your gyro, is it sees it's not quite right, so it adds more. And that's that error. Every time it goes around and sees that error, it keeps adding more and more response until the error is fixed. Or it overshoots and then it sees positive or negative error and goes back the other way. And that's when you get oscillation. You don't want that.
You don't want oscillations, yeah. Tail stop tuning is so most of every controller that is on the market today allows you to tune clockwise and counterclockwise, and tail stop tuning is D-gain.
Right. So another one that we've got to. I'm pretty sure most of us have been in a government building or a building with one of those automatic door closers. Like, like a big heavy office door, right? You let the thing go, and it never slams.
The men's room door.
Yeah,
the men's room door.
There we go. So you got this big heavy door, right? You don't want this thing slamming. It weighs a ton. It's going to damage things if you let it slam, and people don't like hearing that when they're trying to work. So what you look at the top of it, there's this little contraption up there that has an arm on it, and it's got resistance to it. And this thing is basically the mechanical embodiment of D-gain. So what this does and what D-gain does is, in brevity here, you're basically, you've got your set point, right? The spot you want to be, and you're not there yet, right? And you've got error. So you're closing in on that thing, right? Maybe it's being stopped at a red light, right? And you're moving towards the light. So what D-gain does, if you didn't have D-gain, you'd basically get right to the light and then slam your brakes and go skidding wildly through the intersection, and you hit reverse and everyone's looking at you like, God damn, look at that guy, he's insane. And you're in reverse, right? Right? So you're in reverse, and you're like, oh, God, there's so much error. I'm in the middle of the intersection. I need to be back at the line. So you slam this thing into reverse. You're hauling ass. You cross the line again. You slam on your brakes. You're like, oh, crap, I overshot it again. And then this just goes on and on until your tires, the cops show up, and then they pull you out of the car and lock you to a telephone pole.
Light turns
and you drop
green.
Your transmission.
Yeah, exactly. And there's a fix for this. Everyone who drives a car, unless you're Ricky Bobby, will start slowing down. You start slowing down before you get to that light. So when you get to the light, you've slowed down nice. It's a nice, calm stop, and you stop at like a mile an hour, right? And there might be a little bit of a jerk, but for the most part, you're not killing the person in the passenger seat. And this is what D-gain does, and this is also the same thing that thing on the door does, is it lets the door close really fast until that last little bit, and then softens it, so it's a nice close.
Yep.
And derivative gain is rate of change, right? So it's watching how fast are we approaching the set point, and when we get close, slow things down a bit. So this is what happens in your heli, right? When you've got this tail stop problem now, right? You don't want to go skidding past your tail stop and blow your gears up. So what you do is you dampen the stop, basically, is what you're doing. Yep. So that when you get close to it, right? Like you told the tail to move 90 degrees, let's say, and the thing is hauling ass towards it. Well, when you add D-gain in, or some gyros, they call it stop gain, and they add other parts of the algorithm, such and such, the idea is try to go as fast as you can until that last little bit and gracefully slow it down so you hit right on the mark and you don't overshoot. Or you don't get to the mark and then absolutely slam the tail control the other way and strip gears, and everyone's laughing at you as you're screaming and your helicopter's pirouetting into the grill, and now no one's going to have burgers and it's your fault.
Well, yeah, and the sad thing is that when you do that hard stop, you pop the gear, and then a lot of time we see the guys doing this maneuver is they're in a hover, and they're probably at a safe distance up, but yeah, your weekend's over unless you got more gears in, and that sucks.
Don't be that guy.
So the D-gain's one of those items you want to work with slowly, and hard, crazy stops. We see a lot of guys do it, but what you didn't see is when they were tuning it to make sure that the stop was crisp and proper and looks good, not such a hard stop as to basically like. I imagine it is you always hear guys in the men's room dropping toilet seats, and it's so damn loud.
Yeah, and how long do those toilet seats last?
How long do they last? They just smashed in all the time, and it's awful sounding. And just like, dude, your gears got no hope, brother, and it's gonna be bad soon.
Toilet seat your gears. That's a catchphrase. That's quotable. Don't toilet seat your shit.
There is a quote of the day.
I mean, the flip side of this is don't overdo it. You don't want to be the guy who lets off the stick and then the heli's like, and slows down like a middle-aged woman at a stoplight.
Well, a lot of times I've lived in houses where the screen door finishes closing about 3 or 4 minutes after it was last opened, and you'll be sitting on the couch and you'll hear it do the final latch, and you're like, "Oh, that was a long time."
Yeah, that's excessive D-gain.
It's excessive D-gain.
And actually,
it's like a freight train just trying to slow down.
Because technically, to an extent, these gain components are separate a little bit. If you crank the D-gain to something absurd, the system now can't respond fast enough compared to how you've tuned it, and you'll get oscillation. Like, it'll just keep overshooting back and forth because the damping has been tuned up so high, it can't ever really hit the set point. Like, depending on how the code is written, you'll get that effect.
It's one of the interesting things that, DePaul and I have gotten to conversations is just the math on how fast a tail is tuning, and the rigidness of it is how noticeable these settings are on a tail. And on a tail.
Well, software comes in there too.
Software definitely does, but
like there's a real nasty surprise called derivative kick, which is it is as bad as it sounds. Is where if your machine or whatever you've got is putting along real nice, and you change a setting in there. This would be the equivalent of you've got your heli and your radio immediately, or no, like if you've got your tail position or something, right? And immediately you tell it to go from 0 degrees to 90 degrees, like an instantaneous command change. That just basically made a derivative of that is basically infinity. Because you just went from 0 to 100 in one step. There was no nice curve. There was no nice slope. It was just bang, I want 100 right now. And if you haven't written the code to deal with that kind of scenario, it can cause all sorts of havoc. I think pretty much all, it's like a PID 101 thing. If you're writing code, it'll be in there somewhere. You'll see derivative kick, and another one is integral windup, which that one's popped up before. I won't give people hell for it.
One.
But it's popped up. A couple people have run into that one. I did it once. And it wasn't it. Usually it's a bug that'll do it. You change something here, and then suddenly nothing works anymore. You're like, this is balls.
So now that you've gone through most or all these maneuvers to tune your tail, you come back to the step of adding feed forward in for your tail. Tail stop tuning course is just doing clockwise and counterclockwise stops, making sure it stops firmly and crisply, but not so crisply that it bashes your gears to death.
No toilet seats.
No toilet seats. Feed forward. What I'll do for feed forward is I will do a really quick climb outs followed by really quick stops, and then like really quick descents followed by really crisp stops. And I'm not watching the rotor head; I'm watching the tail, because after you adjusted all your gains, you still may see a little bit of kick around on the tail, so you can add in feed forward that when the controller sees collective, it will just automatically feed in a little bit of rudder, a pre-comp.
Yeah, I was wondering, you're saying feed forward, and for the record, feed forward and PID or controls land is basically, I guess it would be feed forward. Yeah, pre-comp is a form of feed forward.
It is.
Yeah.
You might want to explain a little bit of feed forward to people that don't really understand that too much?
It literally, you're basically skipping the control algorithm.
Yep.
You're feeding forward input before the control algorithm even has a chance to get to it. So, like PID especially is is a imperfect control system. You've got, I think was it PQR control? I'm getting that. I'll turn it down. But it's
let me break this down even simpler. For the guys who flew flybar helicopters, they remember that when they did things like axial rolls, that the nose would pitch up or pitch down depending upon the direction of the roll. The controllers, the manufacturers, the guys who write the code know this. These helicopters and their physics are not unknown. They're knowns. They feed forward in elevator for us, so that we don't have to do it in the radio anymore.
Basically, the short version is controls are imperfect, and if you got a system that does something predictably every single time, don't even worry about the controller dealing with it. Just put the control response in there, right? Like, here's a good one. Pitch bumps and the elevator dragging because you've got this big old weight hanging off the back of your helicopter. So guys have seen this. If you do a punch out, you may notice that the elevator sometimes will drag a little bit, drags down. You do a pitch bump down, the elevator drags up a little. This is, to an extent, pretty consistent. Same thing with, Robert talking about a punch out and seeing if the tail blows out a bit from the torque, the instant torque. Or this comes up basically a pre-comp anywhere. Like, if you know the problem, it's pretty easy to just stick a constant number in there to deal with it. Like, I know my tail will blow out this much proportional to how much pitch I give, and you just tell the controller, look, just take how much collective I gave you and multiply it by a number and make that the output for the tail. So it always puts in a little bit of control. It's basically automated trim is what it is. You're skipping the control algorithm altogether. You're just putting some input in there.
Well,
in other words, you're cheating.
Yeah, if you're talking to plankers from the 70s, sure.
Yep. If you're talking to them, but think about it like this: if anyone's ever been in a front-wheel drive car that has a lot of torque, you dump the clutch to launch off the line. You get what's referred to as torque steer.
Yeah,
it's always like planes too. Planes are the exact same way. Like Mike, I get my Mike. I'm pretty sure you've had the same experience with your 71-inch 71-inch
get
plane.
Torques, or if you do certain knife edge things, you'll have this same effect that always happens every time. So you have like a mix or a trim in there to deal with it.
Well, just like on a takeoff, the plane wants the bank towards the left because now, of course, the engine, torque of the engine. Now, of course, you're on your firewall on planes. It's always tilted on the on the opposite angle, so it counteracts that. But you still have, and that can also change with the prop size, the prop pitch, everything about is it a 2-blade, is it a 3-blade? That can also change, and you may have to add a little bit of rudder to keep it correct. Same thing with a torque roll. If you're vertical and the plane starts torque in the opposite direction based off the torque of the prop, you can have a little bit of aileron in there to keep it straight if you wanted to. That's kind of the same thing.
I guess the simplest version of this would just be, it's pretty much an automated trim.
Exactly, yeah.
It's basically.
Yeah. The big thing is on the tail. One, I know for like F3C and hovering, I'll actually turn tail feed forward off as little collective commands kind of becomes drift over time. So I'll turn it off because I don't really need the pre-comp for the tail and just solid competition hovering. When you get towards 3D and everything and doing loops, this stuff actually comes in because it's nice to have it pre-compensate that collective you just pulled and give your helicopter and your environment, your head speeds, just the right amount of rudder in order to hold the helicopter going the same direction.
Yeah, and I guess another place this pops up too is just it's just feel. Because there's pre-comp, that's one way of doing feed forward, but another one is just literally feed forwarding your control input. And Flybars did this, where if you ever look at a flybar, I mean, this is probably like archaic to most people, but if you ever looked at a flybar control, it was a mix. It was Bell Hiller. Like the older systems way back in the day were either you didn't have direct control of the rotor head, you had to go 100% through the flybar, or you had direct control over the rotor head and it was only slightly damped and it was a wild ride. So the Bell Hiller system mixed both of this. It had the flybar to damp and to add stabilization, and you also had a direct control to the rotor head. Like the pitch linkages you had went straight through it, mixed by the flybar to the rotor head. And that's like the mechanical version of feed forward is you have inputs that skip right past the control loop and directly get sent straight to the rotor head. Now what this does is it gives you a lively feel. So it's an example, you'll find it in certain controllers. If I remember it, I think Turning Up Agility does this in the Icon too, and I know Icon does have feed forward, I'm pretty sure. I haven't looked in a while. And I think, I've never looked at the code in a V-bar, but Turning Up Style, I think Turning It Up does it. Makes it feel less robotic, or is it the other way around, Robert?
Style is robotic and fluid.
Okay.
But we'll get into that in a second.
Whichever way it goes to fluid, I think, is the one I want. Is you basically just skipping the control, and it'll make things feel more lively, but also looser. Because now the control has less involvement in your inputs.
So let's not skip too far forward.
That's for the rotor head later.
Yeah. Really, on the finish out the feed forward of the pre-comp for the tails, I'll do, quick climb outs followed by quick descents. And depending upon your controller, you may have control over both directions or just one of them. What I'm looking for is trying to decrease, just that 1 or 2 degree tail kick. To be really honest, good pilots, you're not going to see it, but it's still there. You can't make these machines perfect. High power, torquey motors, crazy amounts of pitch. All these things can really work against you, and good pilots will minimize all that. So, last real thought on this one is some of it may still be there. You're just trying to get it as best as it can be.
It's a trade-off. It's kind of one of these things they pound into you in engineering school is there is a good enough. It's there. It's a lot easier to get to than perfect.
I was just about to say that.
And sometimes it's like, instead of banging the sticks as hard as you possibly can, maybe damp the stops yourself. Like when you do pitch pumps or something, don't like smack the stick as hard as you can up and down. Only get used to using the pitch you need to make the heli move.
Yeah.
Otherwise, it'll be like breaking things because that's fun.
Yeah, there's a point where you just say screw it and fly and have fun. Don't freaking drive yourself crazy and out of this hobby just because you can't get that last quarter of a degree out.
We all know the guy in the field that just like bangs sticks around like a madman.
Oh my gosh.
He always wonders why his helis don't fly right, no matter how much tuning he does.
Oh my gosh.
I mean, it's not even like any one person. It's like it's a lot of people just never. They see guys doing crazy stuff and they want to try and do it. The thing is, a lot of those dudes doing the crazy stuff are also really practiced in smooth things. Yeah. That's how they can get that fast. You gotta, when you start getting to that level, especially with nitro, you have to be able to eke out every bit of power in the engine. If you tried racing a car like that, you'd get smoked.
Yeah. Okay, we're gonna move forward into head tuning maneuvers.
Yay! So happy.
Again.
Wait, we're not done yet?
No.
Oh my gosh.
Again, the first item is start out with a gain value that the manufacturer lists for your size heli. The interesting thing here when it comes to gain is the rotor head is it's not as direct as a tail, so you have a wider range of what is good. I know some controllers, there's just a spot, you set it and forget it, and you go about your life. Some helicopter designs will require you to work more in this area, some won't.
You change wildly different blades, too. That can mess with you.
Wildly different blades, scale helicopters. I've seen helicopters in my experience abuse every tuning number I'm used to going through. They will abuse all of it on you. And it's not because they're wrong or anything. It's a different operating mechanic and environment for them. But, first up, get your gain in a good area. And I know Mike here talks about, a little bit about jabbing and such. So I'm just going to stay from here that set your game what the manual recommends.
They'll explain it.
Usually when it comes to style, most every one of these controllers has style. The style takes you from robotic, where it'll take you from robotic, which will, it'll take you from robotic, which, the helicopter seems to move to everything and snap into place, to smooth and fluid, where the helicopter just feels like it's there moving around. Usually I try and keep it towards the middle when you're going through this initially before I start dealing with just feel, because I want to get the controller adjusted before I deal with feel, because feel is like a feeling. It's not really so much, it deals with math, but it's getting a feeling to what you want, not necessarily what the controller can do. So usually first up, I'll start with continuous flips. And the reason I choose flips over rolls is most every one of these helis has more mass in that orientation than they do in a roll. For 700s, you have a boom and a tail case and your canopy and the rotor head. Whereas if you do a roll, you're not dealing really with trying to flip the whole tail over itself. You're just letting it roll with the whole model. So I'll start with flips, and what I'm looking for here is that number that every one of our controllers had us punch in on the bench. Depending upon the size of the helicopter, it may tell you find 8 degrees, find 9 degrees. It'll tell you to start out with some number. It's a starting point. It's not the absolute say-all, end-all. It's a starting point. Your blades, your head speed, your servos, the weight of your helicopter, they all control this. And so what I'm looking for is that's a starting point. If they may tell you 8 degrees, I'll take the helicopter, put it up in the air, and I'll do in place flips. And I'm listening to the rotor head, or if the helicopter's got sort of telemetry, some way of telling you how fast the maximum speed of the flip it attained, just what it attained. I'll bring the helicopter down and I'll increase that cyclic rate. I'll increase it a little more, and I'll go back up in there in the air, and I'll do that continuous flip again. I'm listening for rotor head noise. When it's flipping, is it making crazy noises? Does it sound like the blades are trying to chew through a tree? Are they echoing off the hillside, or is it just going around and it's doing its thing? Bring it back down. What did it sound like? Do the numbers support that the helicopter actually rotated, flipped faster? If they do, start giving a little more. At the point you've given it too much, if the controller is recording it, the number won't go up anymore despite you adding more cyclic. If you don't have a number to read back, at some point you just notice that the rotor head is making more noise, but the helicopter is not flipping any faster. At that point you've reached the limit of what your setup and the configuration you have is going to reach. At that point, I'll back it down a little bit, because you don't want to. I'll back it down a little bit because overfeeding the cyclic can lead to Shaggy's favorite topic of overfeeding cyclic. Overfeeding cyclic and then throw in some collective, and you get...
Oh, yeah. What I did at Urcha.
Rip.
You get boom strikes.
Watch the video. You'll see exactly what that does. Link will be in the description.
So the starting point's a good thing. The manufacturers are trying to put us in a safe range. You're not going to blow your stuff up. They'll say that there must be this. The thing is a starting point, and this directly controls the control loop that DePaulo mentioned a bit ago. That it's always looking at what's going on, and how much cyclic pitch it has to be able to counteract external forces is going to make the helicopter fly well. Or you may find that you do something hard like a really fast rainbow with a hard stop, and you may find the rotor disc seems to fall out. It dips. It may dip on like aileron, or it may dip a bit, and it really comes down to the control loop doesn't have enough cyclic to counteract just how hard you stopped. So yeah, flips, check to see if it's making too much noise, or if it's recording, see if it's what maximum rate it attains. Smaller helicopters will flip faster than larger helicopters. 3-blade flips faster than 2 blades. After that, some things to see if it's doing a good job is hard pitch pumps. Not really quick, but more of I'll descend quickly and stop hard on a descent, and I'll watch the rotor disc. Does the rotor disc dip down and come back? Does it dip down and stay? It's a control loop. From there, you can, and Mike will get to it in a moment, you can start playing around with the I's and the D's. But yeah, the hard stops will start showing whether or not your control loop has enough. Style sliders, a lot of times, you're the hard 3D guys we all watch and talk with. A lot of them are flying a lot more fluid than you would think robotic. One of the downsides of going too high on style into a robotic range is you can get into stickiness. The helicopter doesn't want to move, which will start appearing as oscillation. And once it starts oscillating, you may, and I did it, I'll rightfully admit I did it, I turned my style up really high to robotic. I saw it oscillating, I started playing with gains. The gains weren't the problem. I just had the robotic up too high. Turn it down. You get too fluid, you may find the helicopter just doesn't ever feel connected. You give it commands, and it's just, I'm out here doing my thing.
You're along for the ride.
Yeah, you're along for the ride. External forces are going to impact your aircraft, and you just don't feel like it's following what's going on. So the next bit is after you've worked with those, Mike, tuning on PI and D for your rotor head, what maneuvers can you do to start seeing these things?
So same thing as a tail. There's a couple maneuvers that'll, if you know how PID works, you can kind of figure, all right, well, these will definitely test that certain part of the algorithm. So I guess the first one that you can tell is just like a tail. If you've got, and I should probably have mentioned this earlier, but if you're starting from scratch, and you want to try and make your own presets or whatever, and you don't really, or if you start from a really, really tame preset on a controller, generally you want to keep all the gains lower, and you want to isolate P first. And that just comes from like industry standard tuning practices. Usually you can start from a preset. But anyway, so P gain, if you're looking at a helicopter and things hovering, P gain again deals with instantaneous response, like the first jab or the first quick movement response to that. So if you've got really low P gain and you bang the stick in a direction or you jab it, and you're like, don't let go of it either because that'll cause oscillations. But if you make a quick movement on the stick, controlled and quick, and the helicopter just kind of sits there, probably your P gain is too low. The other one is if you've got an aileron or elevator shake, is a good chance your P gain might be too high. Or if you start seeing that, if you make a movement and the thing shakes a bunch, it can also be D, and I will get that in a minute. But P gain, generally, it's just response in any kind of movement, any kind of cyclic, quick movements, tick-tocks, jabs, anything like that, you'll see it. It'll just feel mushy, like the whole thing will feel mushy.
Yeah, I know. I was playing with a controller a couple of years ago, and I really went mad with P gain, and you could hear it. It was a little difficult for me to see, but you could hear it. You would hear the oscillation from the jab.
Yep.
And you know, usually I run like 15 to 20 expo. That's what I like. You know, and even with expo, you could still hear oscillation.
So then, iGain. Very easy to see this on an icon that'll let you tune things icon brains lets you tune things individually. If you have your P and D gain set fine, right, and you take your iGain way down, you're going to notice the helicopter just being lethargic and not particularly following continuous commands, right, because iGain deals with error over time or a continuous load, and continuous load in this case would be I'm holding the cyclic stick to the right, and I want to do a slow roll. Well, if iGain is crap, then if it's low enough, it won't even do anything. Because what will happen is the heli will see that you made a difference, so there's a set point difference and there's error, but there's no iGain to do anything about it, so it never builds up. So you'll get the same generic, crappy, lethargic response all the way until it finally gets there. It'd be like the helicopter's like broken or something. What it would fly like. If you've got a low iGain, the helicopter will move, but you might notice that it's not keeping up with speed. So if you go up, I don't know, say about 80 feet or so, and you go full right aileron, and you see the helicopter, and you're like, I know I have the pitch to do 250 degrees a second, but that is totally not 250 degrees a second. You know, like you can very clearly see the thing is not even remotely close. Or a really good example would be if you bang the stick to the right and hold it, it might move really fast at first and then slows down like nothing. Well, you just saw the P gain acting quickly on that initial jump, and now the I gain is doing nothing about the continuous error it's seeing. Like, you're commanding it to do 250 degrees a second, it's doing like 140, it sees the difference, it notes it, and then doesn't do anything with it, because the I gain is not there. So, I gain is a good place where you might find if your rates are seemingly very low, and you're wondering what the hell's going on, you've got 15 degrees of cyclic like a madman, and nothing's happening. A good chance is if you've got everything else set up right, the iGain is probably too low. Another place you'll see it is high-speed flight, or if you're trying to do like a continuous, anything continuous. So like a nice turn, for example, if the helicopter feels really mushy in the turn or doesn't feel locked in, and you're like, people would talk about, is a place you'd find iGain. But usually the place to see if you've got enough of it, just the easy right off the bat, if you're in the ballpark, is whether or not the helicopter will attain the rate you're requesting. Now, there's an asterisk on the end of that, and is the rate you're asking for reasonable? I'm sorry to say, no, your 700 is not going to do 400 degrees a second on roll. Ain't happening. So let's get that out of the way after right.
Not continuously.
Yeah. Oh,
not continuously.
I will say, small helis like X3s and Oxy 3s, Oxy 2s will absolutely do 360 degrees a second. And it's terrifying.
Yes.
It stops being fun. Like, Christy and Monty and I were messing around, and I cranked it all the way up to see how fast I could get the X3. I handed it to him, and he's like, this isn't fun anymore. I want the old one back. It's just too fast. The heli will do it, but things are... You can get the mass of the aircraft moving so quickly that the gyro even starts having trouble stopping, and the aircraft itself doesn't really fly right anymore, so... Yeah, asterisk on that one. Pick a reasonable rate. Most big helis, anywhere from 250 to like 280. Most big helis can pull that off with a good setup.
Yep.
That's like everything I have is all set to 280 for consistency, and every single one of them.
Yeah, my E7 is set for 280.
N7, the E5, the X3, even the little Blade 180, they all can pull 280 no problem, and it's a nice. But it's quick. It's not slow. I mean, you're coming up on 360 almost once a second. It's quick.
280 degrees is quicker than you realize.
Oh yeah.
I know helping guys, helping guys with the Futaba gyro because it records is 700s.
And the newer brains will do it too.
A two-bladed 700 I haven't seen go over like 285 consistently. You can get initials, they'll do it, but not a continuous. And so I'll let a controller, I'll program it so the controller can do 285, but my commanded input, I like, for my 3D bird, I like about 260, 265. For my F3C bird and the aerobatics, I'm around 250 right now. Yeah, I'm lower for the aerobatic stuff. Hovering? Yeah, hovering,
80.
my robotic is maxed out on style. No, I'm not at 80. I'm at 27, Mike.
Woo! But
that's what goes back to reason why my setup would scare me.
Wow.
Myself 4 years ago would be freaked out flying my setup today. Because 27 degrees a second is not a lot of control.
No. Basically, go up all the way to like 400 feet, start your roll, and you may finish it.
Yeah. Not even.
It doesn't.
It wouldn't finish.
Now, real quick, Rob, what was the setup on the helicopter that you let me fly on that E7 or the E5?
You flew my F3N bird. That was 265.
265. Wow. That felt nice. That felt really. I might actually drop
It's a controllable speed.
Yeah.
I
really like that.
Make sure you're actually hitting. Like, I hear a lot of guys, I'll hear them talking on the brain forms like, I've got mine shit to 360 degrees. I'm like, are you sure about that? Like, I really just want to start dropping John Cena memes all over that thread. Like, are you sure about that? Because you totally are not getting 360 on that 700 size helicopter. I can swear to God on that. I will put money on that.
Well,
unless, wait, three blade will do it.
Yes.
Three blade will get you close.
Yeah.
It's like 320 or something like that.
No, not a three-bladed rotor head.
Yeah.
The big thing I'll argue is some controllers let you work with initial speeds, and they will attain a very fast initial speed, and then they'll slow down into the speed that you want for continuous. So some controllers will let you adjust it like that. Others are, people are looking, they're like, I want it quick off center, so they will just tell the controller, I want 400 degrees. The heli can't attain it, but they get their off center feel they're looking for.
They get a quick response.
It'll move great for about half a second, and then it slows down or bogs, and you stall the airfoil. That'd be great. That always sounds great when that happens.
And the different controllers, the fun thing is the math is the same on PAD. Our controllers haven't figured out a different way to do physics, because physics is physics.
Yeah.
But some of us have different ways of playing with these settings. And when I mean some of us, I mean these controllers. They'll let you play with initial speeds off center, continuous speeds, and those are all great things. So yeah, there's ways to get it to overshoot so you can have quick off center and such. So that's my end of that part.
So last bit is D-gain. How the hell do I do with D-gain on a rotor head? Well, that thing, that tail thing that sticks out of the back of your helicopter a solid 2 feet? That's a moment arm. It's a big old lever arm, and it's a hell of a lot of weight to have hanging out there versus your aileron. Yep. And this, of course, presents a problem to the controller, because now it's got to deal with this huge weight on a pendulum sticking out of the back that it has to stop and start reasonably nicely.
See, the D stands for dome.
So put the heli in a hover side into you if you can, or even tail in is fine. You won't see it as much though.
Just watch the tail case.
Yeah. You'll see it really big from a side view. Is if your D gain for the elevator is not set high enough, and you do a cyclic jab forward or a cyclic jab back, and you don't let go of the stick, right? Because then the thing will shake and you'll ruin it. But if you do the stop and you see the thing overshoot and bounce up and down a couple times, or even a little bit, or just overshooting, that's because the gyro is not damping the stop early enough to deal with the extra weight of the tail rotor.
Yep.
And I think, a really good example of this is if you've got a brain, go and look in the advanced menu and look at the D gain for aileron. 5 usually is like one of the settings I've seen a lot. And then you go and look at the elevator. 60. Yeah. Up towards that range for like a bigger, I think the bigger presets are somewhere like 65 and 70 for big helis.
Yeah, so, I know on my controller, I think I swing from like 80 to 110 to deal with elevator and boom.
Wow.
That's on like a CGI, right? Yeah.
Quite a bit.
Yeah.
So point being, it's a matter of stop, and D-gain is really one of those, you won't see it unless you're doing a lot of quick movements, but other places you might see it are TikToks.
Yes.
Again, if you're doing nice and controlled TikToks, and make sure you're using collective, you're doing it TikTok right first, not because if you just bang the sticks around, it doesn't matter how good your controller is, the heli's going to shake and do other nonsense.
Nice crisp stops.
Right, but anyway, assuming you're doing the TikTok, mostly right, if you see the helicopter on the stop, it overshoots or does other weirdness, it's probably a D-gain issue, or the gain's turned up too high in general, all of them, so the thing overreacts and overshoots.
I would give the cross point that if you're doing elevator TikToks with a disc towards you and not side in, you're probably not going to see.
You're not going to see it.
D-gain on elevator,
Yeah,
which really brings up the fact
TikTok,
that you.
Let me clarify that. Aileron TikTok is where you'll see it for aileron D-gain. Elevator TikToks, you usually won't see the D-gain problem because you're not moving the helicopter around. The helicopter is no longer the center, is what I'm getting at. Like an elevator TikTok, you're moving the whole heli back and forth. The tail's not actually moving that much if you're doing them real nice.
Yeah, I would argue that if you have the skill to do side-in elevator TikToks,
you'll see it.
You'll see it.
I see it. I've been seeing some, so I got to work on that.
If you're doing like a real perfect elevator TikTok, the tail case ain't moving.
Yeah, I know for myself. Basically, it's not the start of the jab on elevator and a hover.
It's the end.
It's the end when I let it come back and the elevator just bounces around.
Yep.
And it's really clear at that point that I need to give it elevator D-gain.
I honestly, I'm thinking we almost do like YouTube videos on this, where I'll just go out there.
Yeah, we can do that.
YouTube videos for, here's a helicopter and a hover. Here's what good gain looks like. Here's bad gain, and here's too little gain, kind of thing.
Yeah,
because it's one of those things that unless someone's standing there to point it out to you, or unless you get a really good eye, it's tough to know. Am I looking at what it's supposed to be like? What's the benchmark, basically?
Yeah.
So when the weather warms up, we'll do that.
Warms up. We live in Delmarva, man. It's -5, but it's sunny. Let's go.
So I'm going to get into the last item that most all these controllers have on them, and that is the elevator pre-comp. Depending upon the size of the helicopter and just how much weight there may be out there on your boom, it will lag behind collective movements, and so the elevator pre-comp compensates for that. On the bench you can actually you can actually turn that number up and then run your collective and just watch what it does to your swash. You'll see that it adjusts your swash. It leans, it'll for like positive collective, it will do forward elevator in order to bring that boom up a little bit, and for negative collective like a descent, it will do back elevator in order to raise that elevator back up a bit, or lower it actually a little bit. So flying maneuvers to check how much pre-comp is really needed. If you have a windless day, it doesn't really matter which direction you go, but usually the wind is blowing, so I'm looking for just over time. Where does the helicopter go in the big picture? And one primer to this, your CG needs to be set up right, because your elevator pre-comp, you may feed in too much for it to deal with CG issues, or if you're not putting your batteries in the same place every time, again, your pre-comp isn't going to help much when your helicopter is dynamically changing because you place the batteries in different places. All that to say, first up, what I'll do is I'll put the helicopter, nose into the wind, and I will start doing not like violent pitch pumps, but pitch pumps. I'm not watching the boom. I'm watching where the helicopter goes. Does it stay in line with something off in the distance? Is it going forward? Is it going forward? So usually what I would expect to have happen is the helicopter will start to drift backwards because the elevator is lagging behind your pitch pumps. So if you're adding the pre-comp, you'll start getting the helicopter to stay in front of you if you usually do these pitch pumps. And when I said not by violent, usually I'll climb up like 50, 60 feet, descend 50, 60 feet, climb up 50, 60 feet. And I'm not looking for violent stops. I'm just looking for the climb and the descend, the climb and the descend, to do it over and over again. The reason, if you do it over and over again, with the wind at the nose and you find you're going backwards, well, okay, so I might need to increase my pre-comp. So what I'll do is I'll turn the helicopter 180 degrees, get the next side in, now with the wind at the tail, and I'll do it again. If the helicopter backs up, even with the wind on the tail, on the back of the heli, yeah, your elevator's lagging. It's lagging so much that even the wind doesn't have an effect on it. Up your pre-comp a little. Go out there and do it again. Go both directions if you're dealing with wind. And you'll go both directions even when you're dealing with wind on your pre-comp, and dial it in for your helicopter. The coup de grace to test this afterwards is pyro pitch pumps, and they don't have to be violent. We're still talking about that climb and the descent. And what I'm looking for is a helicopter is pirouetting while pitch pumping in line with you, or something you've lined it up with, or as a helicopter wandering around.
Puro wobble.
Well, there is puro wobble, and if you did, there is puro wobble. If you did previous steps properly, puro wobble should be nearly eliminated. But yeah, I'll do it. I'll look for the golden hour when that wind really dies down. That's some of the times I may fly a day and then wait for that time and then do pyro pitch pumps, or just standard elevator, or just standard pitch pumps out in line with myself, and see if the helicopter's wandering around any bit, and check the CG if I was dumb enough not to do my CG, or check my elevator pre-comp. To the item you mentioned, Puro Wobble. Puro Wobble comes back to the controller doesn't have enough cyclic response to deal with the external forces present in the helicopter. And that goes back to, that cyclic number they told you to dial in on the bench is a starting point. You can adjust it from there. And Puro Wobble is one of the ways you'll actually notice it. If you just go out there and pirouette the helicopter really fast, do it as a baseline. Go out there and take a base model and pirouette and see how much wobble you have in the model, and then start adjusting your cyclic for what the model can actually handle and do. And you'll notice your Puro Wobble will decrease because the controller is able to have enough room to adjust accordingly for that model. Next up is your electric or nitro governor.
We're still not done.
No, we want to hit this item because it's there in the controller. And remember in the beginning, so elevator pre-comp. What other pre-comps are present in the controllers?
I mean, there's a ton of gov pre-comps.
There's a ton of gov pre-comps, there's tail pre-comps, but really there's only the elevator pre-comp. There is no really other pre-comp in a rotor head. Not usually. Yeah.
No. Okay.
Yeah, electric and nitro governors. Mike wrote a ton of notes down for us here. I'm going to go through some of them so he doesn't have to go through all of them.
He wrote a documentary about this.
The first one is the power sources of models are different. They often require different settings. A lot of the controllers will ask you, what is this heli? Is it electric? Is it nitro? Is it gas? And this will deal with how fast the governor reacts, because no matter how fast a servo is on a gas engine, it only reacts but so fast when dealing with squish, suck, bang fuel. So it wants to know. And the other thing is that pre-comps can look different depending upon the amount of torque in the power plant. Most of us have experienced it. These electric motors are insane on some of the instant torque they offer. So, pre-comps will look a little bit different. All this to say, on the bench, make sure you choose the right type of power plant in there if it has the option. And the pre-comps are going to look a little different. So, in the beginning, you would have wanted to turn these off a bit so that you can actually tune the heli and the tail and the rotor head and not deal with the governor beating you up. Next on here is different expectations for tuning and actual performance. Don't expect your engine to magically work better because your gov works. For your nitro and gas, you need to tune your engine. You need to tune it. your governor is going to work better with your engine properly tuned, and that means full range. From hovering to full on, full power. A lot of times, like Mike and I, we were talking about nitro earlier this evening. I'll still reserve a normal mode that has 100% throttle, so I can do climb out, so I can tune my power. I know, talking with Mike, I think Mike, you can correct me if I'm wrong. You've done hurricanes on throttle curves just to get an understanding of full power. What's it look like? Is this thing tuned?
Full power punch out. And to know the thing is, we are definitely at the very high end of the high needle.
Yep.
Because I've run into this before, and I almost cooked a 55 way back when I started playing with Nitro Govs. The mid was rich, and I was messing with that, and it hadn't occurred to me that the helicopter was flying an X50 Thunder Tiger, really lightweight blades, modified engine. Everything I was doing, like punch-outs and stuff, was not enough to actually load the motor into the high needle.
Yeah.
And, if you've got a real cranked out, maybe a Tim Jones special, or you've got your 96 and the thing's rocking, you may very well find that, wow, my punch outs are really awesome. You just keep cranking that needle. It's like, oh, it's not changing. Let's go farther. And then that one time you hit the high needle because you used a lot of collective and cyclic at the same time and you found the high, yeah. In about 3 seconds, that motor's screwed.
Yeah, you're cooking it.
It happened to a buddy of ours at the field. He came out with his helicopters, Nitro. He's like the fourth tank in. And he did a real good punch out with cyclic involved, and it loaded it enough, and 4 seconds it fried it because the high speed needle was at like 0.5.
Whoa!
Yeah. I've since rebuilt that motor. Your governor's fine if you know you're definitely hit the high needle.
Yep.
But generally, I will just always keep a normal motor around 1, so get some nice smooth starts and see how the engine is responding in the low end, because sometimes you can really tell just how it responds to the throttle curve. Like, oh, okay, well, the low is definitely too rich or too lean, or it's hanging or whatever. And, so you definitely know, okay, I'm definitely in the mid, or I'm definitely in the high. So you're not, nothing's being hidden to you, nothing's being obfuscated.
Okay, yeah, agree. I know another point I'll add into here. DePaul and I played with it years ago. My first 600, it came to me as almost ready to fly, and it had a real crap servo in it. And what I mean by crap is not that it was failing or falling apart, was the governor performance. I remember I adjusted the governor, and it was doing its job, and I was like, I don't know. Finally, one day, I replaced it with a nicer servo, and that governor woke up. And
response time faster.
Yeah, the response time was faster. I was finally actually dealing with the response time of a carburetor instead of a slow response time of a servo. So many times, guys will say, "What's good enough?" Generally, I'm looking for something under a 0.12 response time. As far as for using it for a throttle servo, that way it's fast enough that I'm tuning the gov for what the capability of the engine is, not the capability of the servo.
Basically, a fourth cyclic servo.
Yeah, that's why you see a lot of times when people ask, "Wait, what servo should I get for my throttle?" It's a cyclic servo, because flybarless cyclic servos fall into the speed range that we're looking for.
But of course,
was that?
Oh, but of course, you don't have to worry about getting like that $200 high torque servo. Just get something that has the speed, and it's a lot cheaper. You don't need the torque; you just need the speed.
You need the speed.
But of course, it's not as fast as a tail servo. You don't need a tail servo. That's way too fast.
I can tell you that at some point, once you get below like 0.12, you're not going to notice. You're not going to notice the speed anymore. You're going to notice what the engine's capable of.
Not to say that a tail servo will be a bad thing. It's just it's unrequired.
Yeah. Next item on here, beware of torque response from electric motors. I think all of us have seen it. You can get kind of crazy with some of the governors on some of these controllers, whether it's a controller or an ESC, and you'll end up in oscillations that can damage the drivetrain. you know, keeping a helicopter together and flying time after time after time is a feat worthy of celebrating. Destroying gears, you know, we can dance around a destroyed heli and laugh, but it shouldn't be because your governor did it.
Yeah, don't be
it's
that
not
guy.
fun. It's not fun when your helicopter destroys itself.
Yeah, I mean, some guys will praise and find it fun to destroy it, but don't be the governor. Don't be the governor to do it. You know, at some point you're going to get what you get out of it, and there's not much more. You know, like we were saying earlier, there is no such thing as perfect. A lot of what you're seeing is guys who are very well versed at flying helicopters, and they know how to perform within the constraints. What was the so the next item on here is know that your governor could hide engine tuning problems. You know, Mike was saying that again a moment ago. Yeah, you know, lean may be hidden because, you know, as you mentioned, you know, a climb out might not actually load the engine up enough because your heli is performing, you know, your heli is lightweight or really quick, and, you know, just doing climb outs may not load it up enough. If you're capable of doing hurricanes may load it more, and you
Land 7
pitch.
If I go into normal and punch out with that thing, the head speed accelerates.
Yep.
Yeah.
Wow.
No, 1900 will not load the engine enough with 13 degrees of pitch to actually slow it down.
You know, there's that. Oh, what else is the Gov hidden from me?
Tail.
No, you know, the big thing when it comes to pre-comps on governors, what I'm looking for is actually what I'm listening for is overspeeding when there really shouldn't be any overspeeding. You know, you'll listen, you'll look at like Castle Creations. They have recommendations, and you know, do climb outs. And in the middle of climb out, do you hear the helicopter speeding the rotor head up? If you hear it like overspeeding the set speed, then your gov may be too high. You're going, you know, you're giving it too much.
Castle's a good example.
Well, and it's not that it's going to make the wagging sound. It's more of, and I remember I did this Shaggy with the Nick Maxwell motor and the Synergy E7 SE I owned. I climbed out, and the helicopter did nothing but continually speeding up the head speed. It never wagged. It was like, okay, I'm at 1950, and you're climbing up, and it was like, dude, my RPM and my rotor head's climbing.
Yeah.
I was like, that's not my head speed that I've set for. So yeah, the gov was set too high.
Yep. And I know what it's like when the gov is too low by doing a slight overspeed with the E7C and that exact motor, by the way. And having the gov way too low, you pop out of it. You immediately give a collective the gov. You know, so you're overspeeding it. The gov's saying, "Oh crap, I'm above the recommended RPM. I'm going to shut down." And then by the time you apply load to it, it's like, wait, what the hell? Now I need to power up? Okay. And it just jumps a bunch of amperage. So you lose most of your head speed. And now it's got to fight even harder to boost it back up.
Yeah. I mean, so the interesting thing is what I'm looking for in that area is overspeeds will overdo it, but there's maneuvers where you find you'll come out with head speed, and it's not necessarily an overspeed. And what I'm listening for is if the gov's too low, it takes a long time to get back,
to recover.
Even after so you oversped the rotor head a little bit, and then you can hear it like you'll hear the whine of the motor or the MOSFETs and the ESC. You'll hear them, and you'll come out of a little bit of an overspeed, and you're like, well, it oversped. Are you going to turn back on? Because it oversped and your rotor head speed is decaying below your set speed. Okay, you've gone too low. So a little bit of overspeeding, nothing, no saying you need to go all Duncan Bossian on your heli and
Mark Doodle
and do a McDougal. I find pushovers, push over an elevator from fast forward flight, high up, push over an elevator. That'll do it.
Even a loop.
Cubinates, loops, yeah, there's where you're going to see it happening at.
Even a TikTok, if you can really hear it, you're not going to hear it a whole lot because you're doing a quicker TikTok and everything. But a little bit on a TikTok, you can hear it. But to be more precise, a loop, cubinate, stuff like that, or just an abrupt stop, you're gonna notice a lot more.
Yeah. If a controller is really crazy, another one is a stall turn, a really good, solid stall turn where you stand that helicopter up on its tail. If the motor is not if the governor's not performing properly, you could either it will speed it up despite the fact there's no load, or you'll do the stall and the rotor head loses speed and decays until you're pulling out, and then it'll start reacting again. So a stall turn's a solid, easy maneuver to actually see your governor's not acting very well. Shaggy, you said you had another item.
Oh, basically tail. So if the gov isn't set properly, it also can affect your tail gain. So sometimes you might actually be chasing the tail, literally, no pun intended there, to try to get your gain setting in your tail. But actually, it's your governor that's causing these weird kicks in speed. So basically, it's like throttling up and then it's slowing down, throttling up, constantly going back and forth, trying to maintain that head speed. And what it's doing is it's kicking the tail. So you're trying to fight a tail problem, but really you have a gov problem.
Yeah, and that's one of the reasons when we start this whole thing out that you want to turn off the pre-comps on the governor, and if you must, you can turn down the governor's rates for response, but usually I find just if I turn off the pre-comps, stock settings in the governors are good enough to tune tail and head. After that, I'll get into adjusting the sliders on the governor, and then after I've gotten them dialed in, I'll work out my pre-comps. If any point that I feel like things going on with the governor are forcing me to revisit the tail, I will stop and go, nope, I'm not going to mess with that tail. I optimized it. I will usually keep on the governor, and if I'm overdoing it, then dial it back on the governor a bit. As usually if you're going, you're just overcompensating, and the governor's only going to go but so much. If you find you're losing rotor head speed too much, one of the things I find is I enjoy flying. I don't enjoy flying my helicopter much at 1500 RPM because when I lose rotor head speed, it goes into like 1450, 1400. So I really enjoy 1650 as it plays around in a rotor head speed range where if I lose 100 RPM, I'm at 1550, and the helicopter still feels very lively to me, and I like how it is even when the rotor is slowed down a bit. So instead of trying to get a really hyper governor, adjust your head speed a little bit. Give yourself 50 more. Give yourself 50 more, RPMs or 100 more RPMs, and push yourself into a range you like that the helicopter, the gearing ratios and everything is happy to be in. Because it's, the fun thing is, depending upon your governor, if you're an ESC based governor, it's reacting to what it sees. If you're a Flybarless based governor, then it has pre-comps. It can see your stick movements, and it should be able to deal with it a little better. But still, even then, it's dealing with the mass of your rotor head. And trying to get hyper isn't going to help you. DePaulo, anything you want to add in the governor?
Not too much. I guess you read off the notes I had. It's pretty much what I was going to say.
Yeah. No, you got some good notes there. I'm definitely looking forward to some nitro tuning later on. Looking forward to some nitro tuning later on. I know one thought I had kind of towards the middle of the episode, and that is size pre-comps for helicopters. So usually they have you choose, they'll ask you, what size heli you running? 450, 500, 6, 7, 8. Those generally, depending upon the experience of that manufacturer, will put the helicopter into known ranges that work well to let you go further. And that's a great benefit for a lot of pilots because you get the experience of that manufacturer flying all those helis. And nothing to say anything's wrong with starting settings. Just there's a little bit more perfection, precision, and confidence to be attained by learning how to tune your helicopter, and specifically your Flybarless controller.
Otherwise, your head looks like crap, and I'm going to be laughing at you.
I try and save my laughing. Flybarless tuning is an area where F3C has taught me an abundance of tuning, radio, controller, mechanics. And I love it because it inspires more confidence in the aircraft, inspires more confidence in my flying, and it's self-fulfilling. I still get the enjoyment and getting better and not stuck in a loop. Well, guys, I guess it's time to get into closeout topics.
Yep.
Hooray.
Yeah, it sounds like Monty. I wouldn't be surprised if it was.
It was. That was back 2016 Spring Fling.
Nice.
Yep, that was with Al Miser and Aaron Huester doing a tandem.
Is that for a Monty soundboard then?
Yeah.
Sadly, all it is Monty screams.
And that was without a megaphone, by the way.
Yeah. Closeout topics. So, upcoming events that we are attending.
We are?
Yes, we.
We. As in you, him, and I?
Yep.
As in all three?
All three.
As in I have to attend this?
You're getting in the car.
Shit.
Free candy, get in the van.
I gotta listen to freaking, what is it, like Adele or something like that?
I explained this a couple episodes ago. I'm going to fall asleep at the wheel around about 5 in the morning, and I wake up at 7. I'm going to be a maniac.
Yeah, that's accurate. That's about how it goes.
Just stuff me in the trunk. I'll be good.
No. That means when they find us on the side of the road, they're going to have more questions. You're getting in the cab of the vehicle.
I'm painting free candy on the side of the van.
I'm going to be fogging out the window and drawing SOS.
So, first up item that all of us are attending is AMA Expo East.
Oh, there might be a cool heli there if we're lucky.
Yeah,
it might be.
It might be.
Maybe I can fly one.
Maybe.
Smoke up the
Wait,
place.
am I bringing the X3 for buddy boxing, perhaps?
I'm bringing the Fireball and the 180. I don't care. I'm bringing it.
So I have been told by Charles, since it will be the IRCHA ambassadors representing the IRCHA organization at the AMA Expo, that we will have morning and afternoon times in the cage to do buddy boxing and a little bit of demonstration. So I have been informed we will have a Blade helicopter for demo or for buddy boxing, and I've tried to get a second heli, small helis, nothing crazy and big, something for us to buddy box and show off just the fun capabilities of small helis. Also, I'll be wandering around the expo, checking things out, and like we said before, stop us, shake our hands,
yell at us appropriately.
Yell at us, or have a calm, civil conversation. If you want a buddy box, definitely find us, and I'll probably work it out, see if we can't get a list going or something in time frames. And definitely, both you gentlemen, I hope you bring the X3 and the Goblin, because I hope to make some noise in the corner and tell people that helis are definitely there.
Yes, the Fireball at 5,000 RPM would sound so cool indoors. No
one's going to hear my X3 until I start doing stuff with it. Quiet, heli is quiet.
Fireball's a freaking maniac.
I might have to go rebuild the 180 and be like, here you go, random person, try flying this.
Hey,
you hit the wall.
I've got two 180s. I got my 3-blade and my 2-blade.
All that to say, we're driving my car, and we're going to make it fit in the car. Yeah.
You know what? We should just strap it to the top of the car and then just like do a fake auto, and you just like auto in it, or attach to a string and just do a forever auto.
The helis go inside. You can ride on the roof.
Okay. At least I don't have to listen to you act like a maniac inside the car.
I can open the sunroof. You'll hear me.
Uh-oh. Then I get to throw D batteries at you.
No. Those are for the people who are not paying attention and driving slowly in the fast lane.
I'm going to throw D-cell batteries at your goblin.
Lead acid batteries for them. D batteries are for you.
D-cell batteries for the goblin.
The next event after AMA Expo East is Cabin Fever. It is it's Saturday the 3rd. It's a one-day event down North Carolina. Those are the next two events we're planning on going to. Well, I know we're all planning to go to the expo. I don't know how many of the guys are going to join me for Cabin Fever. I know I will be. I know I will be there.
I got to look at my calendar, but I will let you know.
Those are the next events coming up. We do definitely still have the heli calendar posted on our Facebook page, facebook.com/TellARotor. The calendar is actually hosted on Google Drive publicly for everyone to look at. Also, I got some news from our friends down North Carolina from Rams Club. So Mark Pfaff posted up, they got dates for Dragonfly.
Ram sauce. Gotta get that ram sauce.
Is that why it said that?
That's where that is. It's from.
Oh, okay.
And the funny thing, I've never actually had it, but every time I go down there, Lincoln is constantly like, you gotta get a pull on the ram sauce.
I don't know what it is you're talking about, and I'm frightened.
Yeah, I don't want to know.
It's like a sauce.
So, yeah, our friend Mark Pfaff got some dates out for Dragonfly. I just updated on the calendar, I want to say yesterday or today. It is June 22nd through the 24th at Rams Club, Riverside Aero Modeler Society in East Bend, North Carolina.
Cool.
So, that's a new event added to the calendar.
I got to think about that one.
It's a very nice field. I would say it was comparable to our own home field in days of the past. A lot of pit area. They got tables already set up. It's covered. They got a big diesel generator that powers all the pit area.
Oh, wow.
And they got a very nice field to fly on. And, I just enjoy going down, seeing friends, and getting a little bit of North Carolina weather.
Yeah, it's pretty nice.
Yeah, past that, hey, if you want to see your events on our calendar, whether it's other heli events you told us about and I put it in that section, or it's an event within like 500 miles and you think we can make it, tell us. Either reach out to us on Facebook, email, or Facebook or email.
For now.
And
and also on the RC Heli Hangout.
Yeah, I mean, if you're posting events on there, tag us, say something, get my attention. We're usually around. Any other items?
Nitro. That's about it. That's all I got.
Yeah, I think that's about it.
Oh, good Lord.
This year is going to be full nitro. We're all going to have freaking cancer.
Well, I've got a starter wand on the way. I got to find myself a Sullivan.
Be the cancer you want to see in the world.
For everyone headed out to the Align Fun Fly in wonderful Las Vegas, Nevada, I hope you all have a great time.
Have fun.
I look forward to seeing the videos. And they are doing some crazy, they're doing a drawing online for those of us who can't make it.
Very nice.
So, it looks to be a lot of fun.
Someone's going to win.
Well, I got nothing else, gentlemen. Do you?
No, I guess it's good.
Let's close it off. Wrap it up.
Thank you everyone for listening, and talk to you later.
Later, people.
See you later, guys.
From all of us at TellARotor RC Podcast, thank you for listening, and we look forward to seeing you on the field. You can find us online on Facebook.com at TellARotor RC Podcast or on Podbean. Welcome to the bloopers for this episode. We recommend you listen to them in private as the audio is loud and the subject matter a bit sophomoric. Enjoy.
Right, so this podcast business.
Yes.
I'm trying to think how I should say that so it doesn't sound all like bullshit.
We've made ourselves sound horrible before. No one's complained, but
no one's complained, but yeah.
Yet.
I mean, you can read a script. verbatim like a robot, or you can spice it up a little bit as you're reading it. You can still use the same words.
Spice it up, man. Fired out of a cannon.
I'm trying to think about this one.
Hey, all you beautiful assholes! Welcome back to.
No,
the
no,
episode about
swear.
Flybarless tuning. If you've got different ideas, you. The machine gun strapped to himself. There you go.
Well,
That
the army
wow.
calls it Hamburger Hill. The Marine
Wow.
Corps puts a flag on top of it.
Yep.
Hey, real quick, what sounds better? Does it sound better right here or sound better right here?
Better when you're got the microphone in your mouth.
Like this?
Yeah, just like that. More of that.
Dang, I reached that 0.5 peak.
You got me all peaked.
Oh, come on!
All right.
Let's start this
Oh
shit.
no!
Oh, shit. I did not do the visual of that.
Sure you do. You like
Oh,
And you're just watching it burn.
it. Hey, Mike, you want to play a game? I like games. You want to play a game?
Yeah, sure. It's playing.
I got more games than Milton Bradley, boy. Right. So, TellARotor. I guess I'll do this now.
Maybe. We are 38 minutes into this.
Oh, yeah, I should probably do this. Right. So.
why are you writing down?
Oh, no.
You're
don't
writing
worry.
your password down in the middle of the closeout notes, dumbass.
Nope.
Yes, you are.
What is he doing?
Well,
What is
good thing he
doing?
doesn't. It's the freaking. It was a password to a piece of hardware I have here.
What? What? You're writing down a password on the show.
He's wondering
notes.
why he's not logging in. It's because he's taping it out in the notes. And you know the funny thing? That is forever recorded by Google inside of the notes in the editing for this document.
Oh my gosh. Yes. Yes.
A little hint for those of you who may not work in cybersecurity. If you're using a Google product, it records every keystroke. So if you're typing in Google Docs, you're using Gmail email, or you're working in their spreadsheet program, something along that, one of the products that Google gives you for free and business, it's recording every keystroke you make and typing in those things. And therefore, someone who is tasked with finding out what you've been doing can get that kind of information. That works the rotor head, and I have a thought that keeps fleeting through my mind. What was it? I don't know that thought going through my mind.
Does it begin with the Align vacuum cleaner?
I
No.
want that.
Dude, get it.
The crew tonight: myself, Mike DiPaolo.
Hey, Mike.
Hi, Mike.
Hi, Robert. Yeah. So, the part where you say hi.
Yeah,
Hi.
I said hello. You just didn't say my name.
Who is this fool?
This is a good point. Well, we got that first half.
Should
So I'll
we
just- I'll just
reveal the
repeat-
secret?
I'm just going to repeat that last part.